So when I came up with the concept of Music Movie Monday, I had to start off with an artist that is so iconic that sometimes you don't even really need a name to go with the face to know exactly who it is. And the movie was so iconic that everybody's seen it at least a few times, and the soundtrack spent an unprecedented 6 months at number one on Billboard. That just doesn't happen. Except it did happen for this guy. So who am I going to talk about? What movie am I going to talk about? Hang out to find out. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sayne's World. This is a segment, it's called Music Movie Monday. Hopefully everybody is going to enjoy this segment. This is the very first segment of this thing. So what better artist or group to start off with than one of my favorite artists, if you can't guess it or if you haven't already, it is Prince. And the movie obviously is Purple Rain. To tell this story properly, you kind of have to go back in time to see how this was all set up. And there's quite a lengthy backstory, but I'm going to try to condense this as much as I can. So, but before I get into that, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's down there somewhere. And right next to that, a little bit to the right, is a little bell. If you click on that, you'll be the first on your block to be notified when I drop new episodes for this channel. And feel free, please, I encourage this to interact with everybody. So if you want to go ahead and leave a comment down below, somewhere down there, keep going. That's right, keep going. Yeah, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this content. So here we go. All right. So like I said, we're going to go back in time a little bit. Of course, Prince was an artist back from the late '70s, and we're going to skip through a few of his earlier albums. He did have 2 television appearances that put him in the spotlight. One of them was Dick Clark's American Bandstand, and the second, few years later, he actually appeared on Saturday Night Live. Shortly after that, he released his 4th studio album, which was called Controversy, and it had about 4 major singles on it, and it definitely put him on the mainstream as far as the music business goes. But also about that time when he was touring for this Controversy album, he put together a side project. It was called The Time, which obviously that comes into play later. Okay, so after the Controversy tour, he fired most of the members of that band. He did, however, keep the guitar player, and he formed his band, which was then called The Revolution. And let's see, in 1982 he formed The Revolution, and in October of 1982 he released the album 1999. 1999 was a huge success. It had 5 major singles on it, including obviously the 1999 and Little Red Corvette, which I love that song. To put this in context, 1999, it took several months. I think it was like the next spring of '83. It was certified platinum, which platinum is music term for it. Sold 1 million copies. Since now, now it's sold about 4 million copies. But keep this in mind: it took months. It took an entire almost like a fall, winter, spring to sell 1 million albums. keep this in mind because I'm going to go over. I'm going to let you know how much, how many units Purple Rain soundtrack sold just in one day, just to put this all in context. And also in this actually the same time, May of 1983, this is when a gentleman by the name of William Blinn. Most of you have no idea, who this is, but if you remember, if you the older people, if you remember the show Fame, he was actually one of the producers and writers for that show. So the first script of Purple Rain, which it was actually called Dreams, was actually written. Once Prince got a hold of it, he wanted the word purple in this title, so the word Dreams was scrapped, and they decided to call it Purple Rain. So Prince would come in to do rewrites of the script, and he would often do the rewrites actually while they were shooting this film. William Blinn could not finish the project. He kind of ejected, shortly after doing the original writing of the script. Another gentleman came in, and he took after William Blinn, but then he left shortly after. But he did recommend somebody that was doing editing work for him by the name of Albert Magnoli. And Albert Magnoli would ultimately become the director of this movie. Albert Magnoli was a recent graduate from the USC School of Cinematic Arts. So it's a shout out to the USC people out there. Had the original budget for this movie was $7 million. They wanted to film it in Minneapolis, but there were some scenes that were actually shot in Los Angeles, which I'll get to later. One of the places that they filmed most of the scenes at in Minneapolis was a club, which does and did exist. It's called the First Avenue. To have them be able to film at the First Avenue whenever they could, they actually paid the club $100,000 so they could use it for a month. So Prince and the Revolution, they did film all of their live performances inside the First Avenue. However, there are a couple scenes from the exterior that was actually shot in Los Angeles, and it was shot at a place called the Wiltern Theater, which actually still it's still around. I was able to tell this because in the movie there's a scene where Prince, I think before a show, he actually drives in front of the theater, like literally on the sidewalk, and people are having to kind of scatter and move out of his way. But he kind of goes around the corner and then goes like this. In that shot, you can kind of see the underneath the marquee and everything. It's like a silver. It's very unusual, but it's like a silver like awning type thing, and you can definitely tell it's the Wiltern Theater. Also, the part where Apollonia lived, if you look here closely, it's a place called the Huntington Hotel, which is actually in Los Angeles. And it's actually, they did some really clever editing with this. There's a part where I think Prince is looking at that white guitar that he wants really bad, and that is shot in Minneapolis, but then across the street is Apollonia's apartment, which is in Los Angeles. All right, so I'm going to take you just through a few of my favorite scenes from Purple Rain. Probably one of my favorite scenes is when Prince takes Apollonia to the lake, where Apollonia thinks that she has to, where Prince says that, she has to be initiated, and to do so, she has to purify herself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Obviously, it's not Lake Minnetonka, that is actually Lake Minnesota. She jumps in, she gets pissed off at Prince, and so he gets in his bike, he rides away, comes back for her. That's actually done kind of in the same area of Minneapolis. It's like basically an open field, and there's a bridge. All that was done in Minneapolis. One of my other favorite parts of the movie is when Prince performs Darling Nikki. Uh, yeah. Um, so everybody's wondering, who's Nikki? Nikki was a character that was written when Vanity was being considered for the movie. Her character was going to be named, I think it was like Nakartha, and so Nikki was short for that. And in this song, it's very graphic. Turns out that this song, along with a few other songs, I'll just be honest with you, a lot of them were heavy metal songs, got the attention of Tipper Gore. Tipper Gore then used Darling Nikki along with these other metal songs as an example that were ultimately used to form the PMRC, which they put labels on records, and that did nothing but help the record industry because kids like me would go out and buy records that had this warning sticker on them on purpose. So thank you, Tipper Gore, for that. Other than that, the performance was spot on. Apollonia's character was visibly upset. She was crying, and it was brilliant performance. But the song itself, it's so it's just an amazing song. Another one of my favorite scenes in Purple Rain is when the Revolution plays Purple Rain for the very first time. In the movie, the kid wrote all the music himself, and he did not take any advice or any musical ideas from the rest of the band. Actually, in real life, Prince actually did encourage ideas from the other members of his band. So that is one thing that I noticed that was off about the movie. Was written by the girls in the band, and so after this is the first performance after Prince's father had taken his own life, and the crowd was very quiet. The kid was just he was just really emotional, didn't really quite know what to say. And then he says, this is dedicated to my father, Francis L. This is a song that the girls in the band wrote, and the girls are like, "Oh, shit, it's on. He's actually going to play our song." And the performance was dead on. It was very emotional. Just the song, the mood, just everything was perfect. That probably had to be one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Another interesting little factoid about the movie is the casting of the female lead. Many of you know that Vanity was actually the first choice, but then shortly after that casting, she took a job working with Francis Ford Coppola in a movie. So they had their second choice. Her name was Jennifer Beal. But then shortly after that, she took on a project working on the movie Flashdance. So one of their later choices was Apollonia Kotero. She was basically a relative unknown, but she kind of had Vanity's look, but she had kind of like different characteristics. So they had to kind of rework some things, rewrite the script, once again. So Vanity 6, which was the group that was put together by Morris Day, or the time in the movie, was then called Apollonia 6. The music that Apollonia 6 played, and also the music that the time played, most if not all of that music was actually written by Prince. Something else that about the movie. In the movie, the kid and Morris Day and the Time were rivals. Where in real life they were actually really good friends, and they worked with each other often. So that's something else I wanted to spell, that they weren't actually rivals in real life. They were actually friends. But yeah, Prince did write the music for Apollonia 6 and The Time. All right, so I'm going to run some numbers by you guys just to put things in context as far as how popular and how big this movie and how big the soundtrack was. So when Warner Brothers got the movie, they actually really didn't think that it was actually going to do that well. So they only ordered it in 200 theaters across the country. That's not that many. But then after doing some test screenings, the numbers came back, and everything was positive. Some critics saw it, and so then they ordered the 900 theaters go ahead and start screening the movie. Obviously, it was a big hit, and it's just box office smash, and it broke all sorts of records. But come with the soundtrack. So, like I said earlier, that the album that Prince put out before that, 1999, it took months and months and months just to reach platinum, which is 1 million copies sold. Since then it's gone to sell over 4 million. Put this into context. The soundtrack for Purple Rain, which actually came out before the movie came out, sold 1.3 million copies in 1 day. That is astonishing. In 1 day. And obviously, the soundtrack to Purple Rain, I mean, everybody has heard at least half these songs hundreds and hundreds of times. Soundtrack was huge, and I mean, if you put it on, it's timeless. It doesn't sound old. It doesn't sound dated. I mean, it sounds fresh. I mean, but that's the creative music genius that Prince was. Kind of a personal note about the movie. In the movie, Prince had, I'm going to try to insert a picture on here. He had these black pair of pants, and he had like along the sides of the legs, he had these little circle things that were sewn into the sides of the legs, and also along the front. Kind of went diagonal. So my Aunt Althea had gotten me some black leather pants, and I took these to my Aunt Marcia, and my Aunt Marcia loves to sew. She still loves to sew to this day. She actually sewed. We found these little discs. They were not very big around. They were about an inch in diameter, if that. But she found these discs, and she sewed them into sides of these black leather pants that I had. We figure I was 14, 15 years old when I had these things. I've since outgrown them, and I don't have them anymore. I wish I kept those. So obviously I was a huge Prince fan. I still am to this day. I listen to him a lot. But yeah, the Purple Rain soundtrack. It's just what better way to start off Music Movie Monday than with Purple Rain? It's just an iconic movie. The soundtrack is just it's timeless. So I hope you have enjoyed this premiere segment of this. Hope you've enjoyed the content. Hope I've shared some really good information with you guys. Sorry for the lawnmower out there. They're mowing the lawn out here. So hopefully you've enjoyed this content. So hopefully you'll go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's down there somewhere, and hit that bell right next to it. So that way you'll be notified anytime I drop new videos, which I'm going to drop one in a couple days. You'll see why. Just right in time before the weekend. So hopefully everybody is in good health. I will see you next time. Thank you for hanging out with me. Have a good rest of the day, or have a good evening. Peace out.